Do you know there are 3 million shipwrecks on the ocean floor, including 10,000-year-old canoes? That the oldest living creature in the ocean is the ocean quahog, an edible clam. That the deepest point in the ocean is the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, over 36,000 feet below sea level. And that our planet is over 70% ocean, producing at least 50% of our oxygen. This week we celebrate World Ocean Day. Welcome to Kaleidoscope with me, Savithri Rodrigo. Ruan Pathirana fleshes out the protesters' rights. R. Ranganathan is about braving the crisis for the life insurance industry. Sima Luthra shows us her co-working space focusing on mindfulness. And Lokuliana Gedayananda makes the humble pencil point a work of art. And of course, there's much more.
Did you know you can open a digital fixed deposit with just 5,000 rupees? Open a CDB iDeposit digital fixed deposit today. CDB, your friend.
Keep us on your radar, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
Welcoming all of you with warmth and care. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
It's time for a quick look at our week on Commercial Bank Snapshot. Sri Lanka's foreign exchange reserves rose for the first time in 5 months, likely due to deferment of payments to India under an Asian Clearing Union facility. The IMF forecast Sri Lanka's economy to shrink by 6.5% in 2022, the worst recorded in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka needs $5 billion in the next 6 months to ensure undisrupted daily operations. To abate the looming food crisis, paddy farmer loans are being written off and state land gifted to those engaged in agriculture. Tourist arrivals drop year on year by 52% in May. Tourism revenue targets hence have now been revised downwards with expected earnings at $800,000 from 1.3 million. Cabinet ministers have opted to be salary-less for a year, saving 1.6 billion rupees for the treasury. Sri Lankan author Amanda Jayatissa's My Sweet Girl wins the Best First Novel Award at Thriller Fest 2022 in New York. 8th grader Harini Logan won the 2022 National Spelling Bee Championship, spelling 22 words in 90 seconds. Burger King launched a new hamburger with 2 equal buns to celebrate Pride Month. A 1679 ivory diamond-studded Stradivarius violin known as the Hyler is on auction at Christie's at a starting price of $11 million.
Welcoming all of you with warmth and care. Commercial Bank. Our interest is in you.
Welcome to Commercial Bank News Capsule. With the current Sri Lankan economic crisis leading to the contraction of disposable income, the life insurance industry is facing many a challenge. Primarily among these, the lack of market growth. So I asked the chairman of Selinco Life, R. Ranganathan, what he foresees for the life insurance industry in the immediate future.
The economic crisis results in uncertainty, and breadwinners would like to protect their families. The life insurance industry is fortunate that there is still a large untapped market. There has to be, however, an increased level of activity. Usually 10 new prospects would result in 1 sale. However, in the current context, one would have to visit 20 prospects. There is certainly pressure on disposable incomes and hence the possibility of default. However, our company pays out large sums of money in terms of loyalty bonuses, advance payments and maturities. We are now talking to our policyholders and try to persuade them to pay a portion of this payment towards future premiums.
The Colombo stock market began the week inauspiciously, halting trading on Monday when the indices fell below 5%. Towards the end of this week, the all-share price index had a late recovery, but was still down by 1.2%, with the average daily turnover at a low 1.3 billion rupees. OPEC Plus said it would boost output for July and August by 648,000 barrels per day. But WTI oil remained at near all-time highs at over $121 per barrel. Gold prices continued to be lackluster, hovering around the $1,850 per ounce level. Co-working is now commonplace, but it also means spending inordinate hours at work where the environment must feed mind, body and soul. Check out this young entrepreneur's attempt at feeding all this and more at Home Tree Co-working. Here's Sima Luthra.
I'm the co-founder of Home Tree Co-working, Sri Lanka's first co-working space dedicated to mindfulness at work. Through Home Tree, I brought to life a lifelong dream of blending consciousness into the way we work. I believe that if leaders of businesses are led by consciousness and self-awareness, then they will make better decisions for themselves, their employees, and the customers they serve. And so, through Home Tree, we aim to reinvent the pre-pandemic work culture by focusing on consciousness, community, and co-creation in the new normal. Our physical workspace is located in the heart of Colombo 4, near Majestic City. Spread across 4 floors, each floor represents a different nature-inspired theme and is adorned by local artists to spark your own creativity.
Jewels Online, the London edit at Christie's, has a spectacular array of jewellery ranging from the early 19th century, including antiques and signed jewels from the notable jewellers including Cartier, Bulgari and Harry Winston. Oh, and J.K. Rowling is auctioning a pair of Graf diamond earrings with a signed copy of her bestseller, The Christmas Pig, to benefit her children's charity, Lumos. Cheese rolling returned to the English village of Brockworth after an absence of 2 years. But it wasn't just the 4-kilogram double-roasted cheese that was bruised. The contestants were too, with one even ending up with a broken leg. Being able to read fast is invaluable in these busy times, and our lucky winner of a free speed reading program with Sanjeev is going to be learning to do just that. Congratulations and happy reading, Jaden David. And like our lucky winner, you will be a lucky winner too. Just let us know and we will gift you a speed reading program with Sanjeev.
World of risks and obstacles, we are there to help you reach your goals. With 12 billion rupees worth of customer benefits in 2020 and a life insurance fund worth over 100 billion rupees. Our strength is your strength. You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
We've seen protests across the land, and primarily here in Colombo, where protesters have remained in situ for nearly 60 days, demanding changes to the way the country is being governed. But here are 2 questions that have often been asked. What is a protester's right? What is the fine line that divides a peaceful protest? And when is the law forced to step in? Well, I invited Theagi Ruwanpathirana, researcher South Asia and Sri Lanka for Amnesty International, to give us some answers to these questions and a few more. Welcome, Theagi, to Srilanka Life Let's Talk. What actually should protesters, specifically at Golface, be aware of? What is a protester's right?
Sri Lanka's constitution as well as international human rights law, to which Sri Lanka is obliged to participate with because we're a party to the International Covenant for Civil Political Rights, that guarantees our basic civil political rights. So that includes the right to protest, peaceful assembly, freedom of expression, all of that. So that means that the state has a duty to make sure that people's right to protest, peaceful assembly in this case, is protected. And actually it's a bit more expansive than that as well, in that means that the state also has to facilitate peaceful protest.
So what is the fine line that separates a peaceful protest from when the law is forced to step in?
So law enforcement does have a duty and obligation also for the protection of others to step in when there is, something that might harm the rights of others. But that doesn't mean that this can be used as an excuse. So for example, in a protest, if there are a handful of people who are causing a riot, that doesn't mean that the state can step in and wholesale shut down the protest. You have to take only necessary and proportionate action and then allow the others to go ahead. And even this, first you have to try peaceful means like negotiating and trying to de-escalate the violence. A step above that could be, if it's necessary, then you have to look at what are the less lethal means of doing this. Because even things like we see water cannons, tear gas used all the time, they can actually harm people and have long-term health repercussions. So those shouldn't be used. Say, for example, tear gas can't be used in an enclosed space. And then if you talk about lethal force, that can only be justified in a place where you have to protect the right to life and where there's a certain law enforcement goal, and only as far as that goal can be achieved.
So does a person have economic rights? And if so, what are they? And how is this crisis actually infringing on them or impacting them?
Rights are basically two types of rights, right? Civil political rights is one, economic, social, cultural rights are the other one. And Sri Lanka is a party to both of these international covenants. And this is a fantastic example in Sri Lanka's case, how civil political rights are being violated as a consequence of people demanding for the economic, social, cultural rights. So economic, social, cultural rights means that, and we are a party to that covenant, means that you have a right to, say, a right to food, right to education, right to a good standard of living, things like that. And the state has a positive obligation as far as resources are forthcoming to provide that. This right is only sort of enforced to the extent that it's towards the progressive realization of this right. It's not a complete given because of resource constraints, and the law recognizes that.
So what is the state mandated to do for its citizens?
There is an obligation also for the state, and also state has an obligation to reach out to others for assistance in this type of situation. So it's not expected by international law for the state itself to be able to provide all of this because these resource constraints are there. So that's why I think right now the state has to look for international assistance, which it has no choice to do also, and it's doing right now.
Do citizens have a recourse if the state fails them?
Our constitution it recognizes economic, social, cultural rights, but it's not in the fundamental rights chapter. So if it was in the fundamental rights chapter, then people can go to court. Because there's no economic, social, cultural rights in the constitution explicitly. It's there in terms of like provincial councils, obligations and things like that. But and also you can go, say for example, if there's a discrimination or equality argument that can be made, but it's not lined out as one of your core fundamental rights. In many ways, Sri Lanka says it's a sovereign country, we decide our matters, but then this is a situation where we're literally not an island. We are a part of a community of states. We have obligations to the people, and the people and the world has an obligation to us as well.
Thank you, Tyagi. You actually fleshed out some of the questions that we ordinary citizens have a lot to ask about but don't get the answers for. So thank you very much for doing that for us today.
My pleasure.
The painstaking process of sculpting art onto the very tool most people use to create their artwork is what Lokuliyanage Dayananda does. This sharp-eyed artist sculpts the most minuscule of details onto the narrow lead. Here's how he does it.
Mostly I do a variety of designs on pencil tips. At present I have finished close to 300 designs on pencil tips in various shapes, figures, buildings, vehicles, towers, statues and many more. Many people around the world watch my pencil carving through social media. I use small blades, needle and some homemade tools. Also I use magnifiers and microscope as well. It takes a day to few days to complete a design. Currently, design can only be viewed online. Hope to start a gallery in the future. And I sell my creations. Also I do any kind of miniature as customer requirements. Prices are different one to one. Price depends on size, artwork and details.
As we bid adieu today, our Kaleidoscope takeaway is about celebrating the oceans. Every drop in the ocean counts.